Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Not a bad-looking Tuesday. A little bit of rain in the forecast. I'm not even going to try to be the amateur weatherman today. I had it so wrong yesterday. See, this is what I get. I try. I make it clear to everybody I'm an amateur weatherman, okay? So if I get it wrong, I'm an amateur. Come on, give me a break. I'm not an amateur at doing this radio show, though, and I have done this, and so have you, Robin, long enough to know that when we have a guest who has a topic that is going to cause our listeners to raise the volume in their cars because they want to hear every word, I always know when this is going to happen. That's what's going to happen right now. Christina Adams is on the phone. She's an award-winning writer. She's got a book called Camel Crazy. Now, so far, the volumes are staying at the same level.
Yeah.
But wait till you hear this. To obtain camel milk, let's see, a mother on a mission travels the globe, and she goes from Amish farms in Pennsylvania to Bedouin camps in the Middle East. I'm reading sort of kind of from the Amazon listing. She obtains camel milk, which, listen to this. This is where you're going to turn up the volume. The camel milk dramatically helps her son's autism symptoms. Okay, put the volume up because you're going to hear about this right now. Christina Adams, this is a fascinating topic to more than you know, to more people than you might realize. Good morning, Christina. How are you?
Wonderful, Larry. Great to be with you and Robin today.
And good to have you. You have such a clear signal and a great voice. I love this. Where are you? Where are you calling from?
I'm in Laguna Beach, California.
Isn't that amazing? So far away, and it's so clear.
Yeah.
So are you being affected by those fires?
Luckily, this time I'm not. We have had our times of being threatened, but I'm about an hour south of Los Angeles. But it's, of course, very concerning. And it's kind of sad because my publisher's office is actually without power. So I'm assuming everyone's okay.
Is your publisher in L.A.?
They are actually in Northern California. They've been there for nearly 50 years.
That area, okay. Yeah, we know people in L.A. In fact, we know a publisher in L.A. Posted on Facebook that he's okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming it's close enough that he needed to tell everybody he's okay. I don't know. And then I have friends up in the wine country, up in San Francisco area, and she had to actually get out of her house. So it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, and that seems to be the word of the day, right?
Yeah,
crazy.
And Camel Crazy is your book.
That's right.
So help us understand this. We had in the studio just like last week some people who were talking about their children with autism, and there were certain things that they could do that would, what was it, Robin? Alleviate, when something's inflammation, like anti-inflammatories. Mm-hmm. Doesn't work for every one of the kids that they were talking about, but some of them, the symptoms go away. Completely go away.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're kind of talking about here. So there seems to be, and of course we've known this in the autism community for a long time. This is my second book that's related to autism. That the autism symptoms in many cases are related to inflammation, and we're starting to understand that there are subtypes of autism. And when I kind of outline this in the book, but in many of the children and adults, they are getting improvements from lowering their inflammation status, and you can do that by dietary things such as removing cow milk. In a lot of cases, it's a very popular intervention, lowering sugar, and things like that.
So why did you have to travel so many places for camel milk? Isn't there like one camel farm somewhere?
Well, I'll tell you, we got to talk about some of those great camel farms, but it all started when I was at a children's book festival in Los Angeles, in Orange County, and I saw a camel standing there, and no children were riding this thing, and so I was pretty bored, and I'm a curious type because I'm a journalist, so I just went over to find out, why is a camel here if no kids are riding it? Mm-hmm. So then I saw a guy that it looked like the camel belonged to him, and he was selling soap and lotion made from the milk. And then I said to myself, I've got to find out more about this just because I like soap and it seems interesting. So I asked him, how come you are, doing this? Is there something else that they do with the milk? Like, what else do they do with it? And he said they give it to premature infants in the hospital in the Middle East, and it's thought to be non-allergenic and close to breast milk. And that's when I had my idea, like, this might actually reboot my son's immune system, which always affects his autism symptoms.
Now, I wonder how they decided it was close to breast milk. I wonder who got that idea to test that theory. I think that's amazing that thought would ever come up.
Well, there's a lot of weird science out there when you learn how to poke around the internet. And that day, I went home and did some research, and there was almost nothing. And I just, though, didn't give up. I just had this instinct. And our intuition is where our intelligence meets our knowledge, and that's what was driving me. So then I went a few more months, and I kept researching, and I found that an Israeli veterinarian had published an article that showed that it helped some autistic kids in Israel improve on the short-term basis, and it also was helping food allergies.
Really?
My.
And so tell us, how old is your son? Let's hear a little bit about him. What's his name?
Well, Jonah, and he just turned 22.
22, okay. And is he still affected by the autism?
I never say the word cure because cure is like a whole different thing, but he does have remaining deficits, but overall he's amazing. So it's normal for people with spectrum disorders to have some troubles with, a little bit of organization, sometimes shifting attention, things like that.
Sounds like me.
Hey, everything is, known. If you poke around in the corners, you can find a little bit of things everywhere.
Did you, how old was he when you first discovered the connection between camel milk and did it immediately show, could you tell right away that it was helping him?
Yes, and you'd ask how I got it. So he was 7 when I had this insight, and it took me a while to get a hold of it. I had to call to Israel, and I got some science people to talk to. One person, we formed a friendship, and we made our theory of why it might help autism. And so I flew it in from the Bedouins in the desert there through LAX and kind of got it through. And I gave it to him, and he got better overnight. It was actually pretty staggering.
Wait a minute. To go back to help us look at that a little closer. He got better overnight. What did you notice right away? So
he got 4 ounces at bedtime in his cereal. And by then it had been such a struggle to kind of get in the country and do all these things. So it was like, oh boy, I hope it really just does something like I hope. But the next day when he came down the stairs, he walked differently. He sat at the breakfast table. His motor skills were better. He was cutting his food properly and not making a mess. And he started saying things like, Mom, you're really great. I really love you. You do so much for me. And the man that I was dating was there too. He had come over in the morning to help my son get ready for school, which is a great way to date an autism mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God bless him.
Yeah, yes, he's wonderful. So he had 3 children of his own, and so he was also witnessing this, and we were both just like blown away. So then the motor skills on the gross level, which means like your large motor skills, walking and moving and things, those got better too. My son picked up his own backpack, he put on his own shoes, and he said things like, "Who's picking me up today?" So
which was
all
unusual.
those social things.
Wow.
He was very smart, but you couldn't tell. Like the first book is the topic of how he got better. That's called A Real Boy. But then this one just boosts to a whole new level.
Okay.
And it also stopped any of the problems he was having with food and behavior and things like that. So
in the book A Real Boy, do you mention the camel milk discovery?
I do, and I kept it kind of quiet for a while because I was afraid people would, kind of burst through customs and jeopardize my supplies.
Right,
then, I wrote 2 articles a couple of years later. One went viral and helped start off the camel milk industry globally, and then I wrote a medical journal article that has now been cited about 12 times, I guess.
And your book is not a textbook. You have funny stories about camels and the people that take care of them and just about your adventures.
Thank you. I'm a writer, and so I've spent my career doing communications and stories, and then I got a master's in writing, creative writing, And so I turned all those skills into kind of telling memoir stories and doing reporting, but having fun. So it's personal, but I've had all these great interactions with these people from all the different cultures. And it's wonderful. To me, one of the great messages of this book is that communities can cooperate and come together across all their barriers, cultural, religious, economic. I've spent time with, Hindu herders out in their villages, and with wonderful Muslim people and wonderful Amish people, and everybody's just been wonderful. When it just shows you can have a common cause for helping one another.
Absolutely. I think that about so many different things. The book that we're focusing on, I want to make sure the listeners know about both books, though, in this case. The book, A Real Boy, is Christina's earlier book, and the one we're talking about right now is called Camel Crazy. And in Camel Crazy, you focus on the camel milk itself and also how it made a difference and how you got it and all that stuff?
I do. So I wanted it to be a story, because when people want to learn something kind of that's got a little content or science in it, it's just boring to read straight stuff like that. So right. I wanted to share this amazing personal story, and then the stories of all the other people are in here too. Their incredible tales and their knowledge and their fun quirks. But then I kind of weave the science in a kind of easy to read way.
Right.
Well, then camels, as you point out, I mean, gosh, camels have been around for centuries, and they're just not pack animals or something to ride at a circus. I mean, they each have their own personality and can actually relate to human beings like your dog can.
Yes, and I'm glad you know that. I was just at a ranch this weekend debuting my book to the part of the camel community. So I was around all these, camel cowboys and handlers, the top people in the world. And so I knew that camels were kind of like children mentally. I mean, in a smart way, like human children. You could say they're around 8 years old in terms of intelligence. But then this weekend, somebody was saying, "Oh, look at this camel. This is like a 12-year-old child. They're so smart. Look at what they're doing."
Wow, they can play video games, that means. So I have a question for you about cures in general. Like, for the first 7 years of, what was your child's name again? Was it Noah?
Jonah.
What, the first 7 years of his life, were you being, like, did you have people say, "Oh, you should try lemon juice," or "You should try sunshine"? Or, I mean, did you have people telling you what you should do? Did you try it, and did those other things not work?
That's a great question. Here's the situation, and it still kind of exists in this term we call autism. At that time, doctors were not diagnosing him properly. It was a preschool teacher that did it, and then when you actually get a proper diagnosis from a neurologist or whoever, they don't really tell you anything you can do other than sign up for a few services, and that's still the case. So I was luckily surrounded by people that had autistic kids, and they all said to us, "We're lawyers, we're attorneys, we've tried everything on our own, we've gotten doctors, and do this, and this." So they told me immediately the diet that I could start, which was kind of a gluten-free, casein-free diet. They told us the therapies to do. So now, ever since then, it worked. I mean, like, those things worked. Gluten was not as big of a deal for him, but casein was huge. When I took away cow milk, his language returned, his skin stopped being so inflamed, and he changed.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
So I don't know if this is kind of an awkward question, I guess, but if the camel's milk is like human breast milk, I don't know where you would get that from for a child that's 7. But I mean, is that available? Are there ladies out there that sell
that
them?
lactate?
Yeah, you know what I mean. That sell
their breast milk.
Yeah, do they?
I just think this is such a great line of questioning. So first of all, in some ways it is like human breast milk, in other ways it's not, but it tends to contain these very, very small immunoglobulins that help form immunity in children and animals, like breast milk does. So camel milk does the same thing. But if I could go back in time, I would have gone, instead of formula or anything for my child, I would have gone to a donor breast milk bank. And then also, if I was a nursing mother, I would drink camel milk myself and take all the allergens out of my diet if my child was showing some issues. So I do think that's interesting. I don't know if there's that's a good question about now if people should try to go to a donor milk bank for their children with autism. I mean, I think it's a good idea.
Is the camel milk that's imported approved by the FDA? Because you wrote that you had to get special permission from the USDA to import it, because the first time you brought it over, they threw it out. They wouldn't allow it in.
Right. That was when somebody was trying to bring it in for me, and we didn't know how to do it, didn't have the letter from a doctor or anything. But once I got the doctors that knew that this, I had explained it all to the doctors. No one had ever heard of it but me. And then they said, yeah, it sounds like a good idea. And so they gave me the proper letter, and that helped me get it in. But things have changed since that time. So there are imported milks that are allowed now by the FDA, and they're aware that the camels are being milked here in America. And so you can get it from our farmers right here in America. And you can also buy milk that's imported, which is often in powder form.
And how was your communication with the Bedouins and everything when you went over there? Did they speak English, or did you have an interpreter, or how did that work?
Well, it's been a few different ways. It's amazing how many people speak English now. Some of them, their English is limited, but you can really work together through hand gestures and eye gestures and a few common words to meet with people and understand. And then there's like one Bedouin who is a herd manager of one of the world's great camel dairies, which is also in the book. And he it kind of told me things. He had some English, but then we had somebody that helped translate. But that camel dairy has 1,700 camels.
Wow.
And it's just gorgeous. Like the sand is raked, and they're very pampered, and they're happy. They're so happy they line up and give milk by themselves. Seriously, I saw it.
My gosh, this sounds like you had a fun time.
Yes. And then the Bedouins kind of are like the Arab people, but then there's kind of versions of Bedouins in different countries. So I've had wonderful experiences in India with the camel herders who believe that they were created to take care of camels as their faith, and lots of other places like that. And that's in the book too.
Are there more than one breed of camel? And I don't know anything about camels, but I thought there was a one hump and a two hump. Does that make a difference?
Well, both of the milks, those one humpers are called dromedaries.
Okay.
And the two humpers are called Bactrians. And so the dromedaries are the ones that we use for dairy, and the ones that we see on TV and the happy hump day often. And there's a lot more of them. But the milk is very good from both species, and there are different kinds of camels. But the fun thing is that since my son was kind of patient zero, first he had the milk from the Middle East, and then we found out the Amish people in America had started milking camels a few years later, and the milk worked the same in him. So that shows it wasn't the breed or the feed; it was the actual camel milk itself.
Would the milk from the camel that was turned into cheese or even ice cream, would that be just as effective as just milk, just like on your cereal?
Okay, I love how you're asking these probing questions that very few people have ever thought of. I don't know if it would. I think that we'd have to kind of take some kids and trial it. The cheese, if it's pasteurized, it would lose a little bit of the qualities, but still pasteurized milk does retain excellent qualities. So that's kind of interesting about the cheese. And they do have to add enzymes in order to get it to form a cheese, because camel milk does not like to coagulate.
Oh.
But the ice cream is delicious. I don't know about therapeutic use yet, but I've had it in Dubai, and there's a picture of it in the book, and it is yum, yum.
Really? All right, so you know what you're doing? You're getting everybody with an autistic child to have a little bit of hope. I said at the beginning, there's going to be people turning up the volume, and I guarantee that happened. What is the study saying as far as, because when we had last week, we had some people in here talking about things that help an autistic child, and every single thing they told us said it doesn't help every child. There are some things that help some children and other things that help other children. Is that the case with the camel milk? Because I want the people listening to hear you either say it's going to help your child or take a chance, and if it does, it does. It doesn't, it doesn't.
Okay, so that's a great question also. First of all, they did a double-blinded clinical trial in Saudi some years ago, and the children improved on their autism rating scale. They actually improved from the milk. They did show that, like my own theory, it kind of backed up what I've been thinking, that the children that had allergic responses were the most likely to benefit. However, you can't tell if your child has allergic responses until you really get some great medical care and some deep testing, which is only available from autism specialty physicians. So I would say to everybody, they should try it. And even if it doesn't work for their particular kind of autistic child, it's the best nutrition. It helps build bone strength because, unlike vegan milks, it has the calcium and things like that in it. It's just, you can't get that out of a vegan milk. And it's a great ethical milk, and it's super healthy. So it's not going to hurt, and no matter what.
And it's wonderful that you're recommending to the people that have autistic children to bring this up to their physicians first and don't use their children as an experiment.
I do, but I will say most of your physicians are not going to know a thing about it. Your physicians in the specialty autism treating space might have heard of it. Most of them don't really know much about it, but doctors are now starting to recommend it. I am hearing that. So, this is typical with anything you do in autism. The parents have to get turned into experts, and it doesn't, it's a big burden because the lifetime care cost is $2.4 million of a child with autism, and often the parents lose their career. So, tough stuff.
Christina Adams is our guest, and her book is called Camel Crazy, A Quest for Miracles in the Mysterious World of Camels. It's a memoir, and if you go to the Amazon page, you can also click on her name, and you'll see her other book, A Real Boy, in which she talks about her own son. Let's see, not Noah, it's another Bible character, Jonah, right?
Jonah.
Yeah.
Jonah.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
And how camel milk has actually helped him. And does it, I know you said you were reluctant to use the word cure, but does he need to take camel milk all of his life to keep, you know what I mean? Does it have a maintenance element, or does it once things are better, they're better?
Okay, well, yeah, this is a great question also. In the back of the book, for users, because a lot of people are going to want this after they read the book itself.
Right, I know.
The user's guide, and that gives instructions on how to try it for different disorders, not only autism, but diabetes, juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, some of the other things that we know that it helps some people with, chemotherapy.
Uh-oh. Did she go?
Type 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, at any rate, he's doing well. He's 22. He's in community college, and
Oh my gosh.
I'm proud to say that he doesn't drink it every day anymore. I wish I could control everything that he ate, but he does drink it when he doesn't feel great, or I get a smoothie into him. So he always recommends it to other people. He says, "Mom, I think I met a kid that really could use this milk."
Really?
Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh my gosh.
I love what you're doing.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
Fabulous.
this is good information. It's the first time I've ever heard anything about this. And Christina, do you have a website that you can direct us to of your own?
Oh, I certainly do. It's ChristinaAdamsAuthor.com, and the book is available anywhere books are sold, on Amazon, any bookstore. They can order it for you if they don't have it on the shelf.
One question I do have for you, is it expensive?
It is on the pricey side, but the price is starting to come down a little bit. If you order directly from the farmers, you get it cheaper that way. And there are people in Florida drinking camel milk right now.
Wow. That's excellent stuff.
If you owned a camel, would that make it cheaper?
If it doesn't kill you.
Yeah.
So a llama is sort of in the camel family? Would their milk wouldn't do the same thing, huh?
People do ask that. They are in the camelid family. Science is starting to look at llamas for some of their scientific properties for like immunotherapy type of purposes, but we don't know about their milk yet. Why doesn't somebody write a book about that?
No, not me. I can't even imagine milking any animal. Christina, thank you so much. Good information for the listeners. If you want to share this interview, please know that we do record these. They are put up on Facebook and YouTube, usually by 2 o'clock in the afternoon after we do the interview. Christina Adams, thank you so much.
It was my great pleasure.
All right, we'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. Now meeting with House committees handling the impeachment inquiry, Alexander Vindman, an Army lieutenant colonel on the President's National Security Council.
Vindman listened in to President Trump's July call with Ukrainian President Zelensky